Well, welcome again for another conversation around mental health and the impact that COVID-19 has had on stress and anxiety for people around the metro area, as well as the impact that it's had on organizations. Recently, I was introduced to Dr. Michelle Robin with Your Wellness Connection. She works with individuals as well as corporate clients. And we're going to start out with a conversation around what the current state looks like for her and her clients. And then, as I've said recently, we're going to pivot a little bit into what the new world will look like and what's being provided to organizations to help them navigate that space. So, Dr. Robin, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, Ken, thanks for having me. I love spreading hope and healing. And when you think about the current state, I like to think about it that COVID-19 is amplified wherever you were at. If you were having anxiety, it maybe poured anxiety on there. If you had loneliness, it added some more gasoline to that fire burning. If you were having financial problems, it added some fire to that gasoline. It added some gasoline to that fire. So a couple of things is, for me, the first few weeks as a leader, having to, watch a wellness business go from, very full to about 30% because of well-being, right? That's what we did. And that some people, that's not called essential. But plus people were scared, that fear, false evidence appearing real. And so I've kind of gone through my own pattern of it. I actually suffer from anxiety, like most people. I found when you've been giving care for 28 years, you realize that most people have a level of anxiety, a level of depression, or a level of loneliness, one of those three, who are also intertwined. But it just depends on, how much I'm sleeping, what I'm eating, if I'm getting exercise, of how flared up my anxiety is. So I want to tell you, the first few weeks, my friends would say, "How are you doing?" And I would say, "I'm on the right side of the ledge," because I really felt like I was almost on the ledge. Right. We're 6 weeks in. My clients have started to take a deep breath. We've done the things we should do in our practice, limiting our time with our patients. We're wearing masks. We're, doing all the things we should have been, washing your hands. Right. We have limited people in our center, even though we have 20 practitioners. So we can get to 10 pretty quick, but we have an 8,000 square foot facility. So it's a little easier to be spread out. So that's the current state. And I'm feeling that people are a little less anxious. I love the saying, you should be informed by the news, but you shouldn't really watch the news. You need to know what's happening, but you just can't be watching it 24/7.
Right. And so then as we turn and begin to emerge from this and begin to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, and the term return to work becomes very prevalent, and organizations are just literally trying to figure out what that's going to look like as far as spacing within their work environment. Do we have a coffee station now? Do we not have a coffee? Just things like that. To your point, just as COVID-19 and quarantine poured fuel onto that anxiety, if it was already there, I think going back to a strange environment and trying to understand how to navigate is that same kind of fuel, and can certainly fuel those issues going forward. So what do you think about that return and what that looks like, and potentially how you'll be able to help your clients and your individuals deal with that?
Well, I think there's two sides. There's my one-on-one clients, and there's my corporate clients. I'm going to go with one-on-one first, and maybe talk about the corporate if we have an extra minute or two. What I've been hearing from my clients is, they have trust and respect. So I think the first thing is you got to trust the entity you're going back to. You got to trust your employer. They've got to trust you, right, that we're all doing the best thing. That's one word that comes to mind, is trust. That you're going to do the best. You're going to do the best you can with the situation. The second word I keep hearing is drip. And the faucet got turned completely off. You're like me. My calendar kind of got pretty clear. Mm-hmm. I was able to take 2 or 3 weeks off and kind of pivot. Right. I love that you use the word pivot, because a lot of us are pivoting. And I really feel like we've all gotten some pearls, some gifts from this time of COVID.
Absolutely.
And what we want our normal to be. And if you want to think about if we thought normal was before, when we all were disconnected, running around like a chicken with their head cut off in the rat race, I'm not sure that was normal.
Yep.
So as we're stepping back into it, I think it's dripping. I'm being very intentional. Mm-hmm. I've been seeing patients for the last few weeks, 3 days a week. It's dialed back about 40%, which is okay. I take a shower at my office now. I'm fortunate enough to have a shower there. When
Hmm.
before I thought about that, I'd come home, I'd wipe my car off with Clorox wipe, come strip in the garage, and then throw all my clothes in the washer and my shoes and everything. So I think it's just being mindful. Just once again, to me, we should be practicing some of the things that we could have been practicing all along. Is that mindful? Slow is better than fast.
Right.
If
Right.
you're concerned, listen to that little spidey sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you're dead onto something there, and we can transition over to the corporate side. But I'm super encouraged and excited about the opportunity we have for it to be different, right? And to not go back to the craziness that got to be very normal for most of us. But the idea of exploring something that's better for all of our well-being and better for our relationships and our interactions, I think is a great opportunity coming out of this.
I couldn't agree more. I've loved, I'm sitting in a new home office I've had to create because
Hmm.
we have a team that works Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday team. And so I work from home on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm absolutely loving it.
Hmm.
I'm loving the chance I'm doing this rhythm and resilience series. But here's some thoughts for people that have loved working from home. Some people have not,
Hmm.
and I don't have
Yep.
kids. That helps.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to homeschool. And for everybody that's homeschooling, God love all of you for doing that and taking on that responsibility. I know some people are stepping up and really loving it, and some people are like, get me back to work.
Hmm.
However, I believe communication's it's got to continue to be as it should have been all along. Is we got to continue to communicate. So when I think about not seeing somebody face to face every day, we've got to communicate more effectively. You
Hmm.
know what, I know here's the projects we're working on,
Yep.
here's what I'm going to get done. And so if I was a leader, or I was an employee saying, you know what, I've loved working from home, how can we make this part of my norm?
Hmm.
I would think about my communication strategy with my leader, with my boss, and saying, okay,
Yeah.
I've loved this part. Because when people aren't there, you just don't know what people are doing unless they communicate, right? For all you know, we could be sitting around watching Netflix all day.
Hmm.
So I
You
think
know,
communication.
that's a great point that you just raised, because when you think about somebody returning to the office and kind of waiting for leadership to say, this is what's going to look like, I think there's an opportunity now for everyone to have input and propose some ideas on this is how this could look. I found that I was very efficient between these hours when I was working from home and go to your leadership and say, what do you think about this being part of what the new is for us? And let's work together to find what that could be. And then everyone has a voice in it.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, be proactive, because you don't
Right.
know how many balls your leaders are juggling. What are the new policies, and then what if we do have somebody come in with COVID? How do we? Who's going to clean the space, and
Yeah.
all these other things? But it's time for people to take responsibility, not only for their work well-being, but for their personal well-being. We were talking before we got started how we both are triathletes. You're much more than I am. I do a sprint triathlon with our good friends with that win for KC. But it's still, that's part of it. We've got to take personal responsibility. So if you have a vision for your life, what I've been doing with my team is I have said, what's the vision for your life? Because I've gotten more clear on the vision for my life. I like the word clarity.
Yep.
And so hopefully, Ken, you've got some vision for what you want your life to be
Yep.
like. And I think we need it. It's our right and it's our obligation to share that with the people in our lives.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. That's all great information. And I love this, where this video conversation is going, or this interview series is going, into beginning to look ahead and equip people with some ideas on how to build what that new norm looks like for everyone. So thank you so much for taking some time today. I sure appreciate it.
Heart to heart hugs.
Okay, thank you so much.